Welcome everyone to the Friday edition of the OTRS Central Q&A. I call it the Facebook Friday edition. I know how original for a name. If you want to have your questions answered as part of the Friday Q&A, you need to go like the OTRS Central Facebook page, and then every week when I post the status asking for your questions, then you go post your questions. Otherwise, you can go to Twitter, tweet your questions to @OTRS Central using hashtag OTRS Central for the Monday and Wednesday Q&As. Let's get started with this one. Try and get through as many as I can, or as I feel like. Fair enough. Brandon Leslie, do you think HBK should have faced The Rock at WrestleMania 20 instead of being in the main event in another match involving his feud with Triple H? No. I get what you're saying. You wanted to see HBK versus The Rock in a feud and in a WrestleMania match, but no, it kind of worked the way that it went. Chris Krager, what do you consider the 4 worst pay-per-views of all time? The anti-Mount Rushmore of pay-per-views, if you will. Oh, God, the 4 worst of all time. Ooh. WWF/E standpoint. Since it was a WrestleMania, I'll put WrestleMania 9 on that list. ECW, if you will, December to Dismember 2006. I know that's the WWE version, but still, that's got to go on there. What was that one with the drunk Jake the Snake? Was that Heroes of Wrestling or something like that? God, that was terrible. I can't remember the name. I tried to erase it from my memory banks. That's how bad it was. And then any plethora of WCW ones. Sean Hayes, thoughts on WWE hyping up Kenta's signing, but then renaming him into Hideo Itami? You know it was coming that they were going to rename him because they want the ability to own all the naming rights over these individuals, and that's the nature of the business today. You know, you bring in somebody known as one name and then you change their name to something else. Good thing in his case is that wrestling isn't all that big in this country to begin with, and not that many wrestling fans would necessarily be all that familiar with Kenta from a mainstream standpoint. So he could be whatever you want him to be. But Hideo Itami, you know, I'm expecting him to come down to the ring and do the big old wind-up pitch like Hideo Nomo used to do. Oh, good Lord. That was the best name they could come up with. Trey Caldwell, if WWE took Ryback off television for 6 months to a year, could the Feed Me More gimmick work again? I don't see why not. Give it another shot. It might work. I mean, gotta work better than what they're doing with him now. Joel Rivera, should Christian have beaten Edge in 2011 for his first World Heavyweight Championship if Edge had stayed healthy? Well, I don't think there's any question about that. The dynamics of that would have worked so much better than him wrestling ADR for a vacant title. Ravindra Rampersad, what is a better chance of winning the Super Bowl this season? Your Bears or my Eagles? This is a serious question after week 1 and a serious question in general. Easily your Eagles have a better chance because at least they'll make the damn playoffs. And once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. Samuel Shepard, why do people think that Cody Rhodes is Stardust when Stardust has a star in his face and Rhodes does not? Terrific question. Applaud you sticking to kayfabe here, Mr. Shepard. I want to know this too. Why do people think that Cody Rhodes is Stardust when he clearly isn't? Clearly. Aaron Gregorich, what did you think of John Cena and his shot at The Undertaker in his promo with Paul Heyman on Raw? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even remember it. I think it was because I had tuned it out. You know, like I was hearing it, but I wasn't listening to it, if that makes sense, because it was so much of the same old crap. I got the key points, which were the same garbage points. A conspiracy theorist. Can you explain why Hulk Hogan drew more money than HBK or Bret Hart when they are 10 times better wrestlers? Well, where do I begin? Wrestling doesn't draw, in terms of the in-ring action, nearly to the extent that serious fans thinks that it does. HBK and Bret Hart were also top guys at a time where the business in general was down, and specifically the WWF was down. Hulk Hogan was able to do one thing, but with the backing of Vince and the Titan Tower machine in the 80s and early 90s, and then was able to go to WCW and reinvent himself. Hogan was a larger-than-life personality, and I don't think anybody will ever confuse HBK or Bret Hart with that. And, back in that time, frankly, I don't care what anybody says, size did matter. You know, they got what they could out of Brett. They got what they could out of HBK, but, you know, it's more than in-ring action makes a top guy, and more than in-ring action makes a guy a big money draw. There's a lot of things that go into it. David Asseline, would an ISIS gimmick be taking it too far, or would there be some humor in such a gimmick? I don't know if there'd be any humor in the gimmick. A more courageous company at a more courageous time could maybe do something that would really blur the lines and toe the lines and maybe cross over the lines. But then you'd also run the risk of drawing the wrong type of heat. Instead of the pay money to see them get their ass kicked type of heat, you get the, you know, go the fuck away. I'm not paying for any of this shit heat. You'd be better off probably having a character talking about America's chickens coming home to roost and that they have nobody to blame but themselves and da da da. You could do that stuff, and while it would piss people off, it wouldn't necessarily be going over the line. Tim Solomon, do you feel that wrestling fans will automatically shit on wrestlers who never came from the indies like Punk, Bryan, Rollins, and Ambrose? I don't know if they're automatically shit on them. I don't think they'll automatically shit on them. Do I think if they don't have certain styles, like some of these guys, that they'll get shit on? Yes, to a degree. To a degree. But, you know, I'm looking at it. Does Bray Wyatt have years of independent experience in his hip pocket? Yeah, I'm just saying. I don't think he had years of independent experience. Does Roman Reigns have years of independent experience? You know, so I don't know about all that. Lance Clearman, what do you think about Sheamus versus Brock Lesnar? Does that interest the Schleg Daddy? At this particular point in time, absolutely not, in no way, shape, or form. If Sheamus's character was done better and he was booked better and he was a legit top guy in the company, then yes, there could be some significant appeal to Sheamus and Brock Lesnar. Unfortunately, there isn't any appeal. Juan Pereira, who would you say is the Michael Jordan of baseball? Well, you know, it's kind of hard to say because obviously Michael Jordan would never ever play baseball, so I don't necessarily know that we can make this comparison. However, if you were, the clear winner in this category would be Babe Ruth, if you're talking about all time. I mean, Babe Ruth, you know, last played 90 years ago, or 80 years ago, excuse me, 80 years ago. And he's still widely viewed as perhaps the greatest baseball player of all time, the biggest star in the history of the game. I think it's Babe Ruth. You might say that Michael Jordan is the Babe Ruth of basketball. That's how big of a deal Babe Ruth was in his time and for all times. Mythrander Oblivion, what did you think of Kenta's new name? Hideo Itami. Hideo Itami! Hideo Itami. Easy to say? I guess. There's only so much you could say about a name. I mean, but it seems like to me it's more of first name, last name crap. You know, but we'll see what they do with him. That's what's more important than anything. Luke Harris, in terms of volume, atmosphere, and sheer magnificence, how big is Brock Lesnar's dick? Ask Sable. I don't know. Maybe that's why they call him Meathead. I don't know. Tomas Adams. If you could have a superpower, what would you choose? Invisibility. I think that'd be the one I'd choose. Peter Gunn. Should the WWE consider adding NXT matches to pay-per-views, the pre-show? Oh, to the pre-shows, there's no question about it. No question about it. Would I be okay with them occasionally putting an NXT match of significance and consequence on a pay-per-view? Yeah. Because in part, you're trying to develop these guys and get these guys ready for the big time. Well, why not find out how they do when they get a little taste of the big time? So I'd be okay with that, you know, especially in the right circumstances with the right players involved. But on the pre-show, for sure, no question. Tomas Kakai? Yeah, there we go. Do you think WWE should do pay-per-views outside of the United States like Germany, England, Italy, or Spain? Yes. Yes. Several continents the WWE doesn't visit when it comes to their pay-per-views, and they should. Logistical problems, screw them. You're on the WWE network out anyways. D. Henderson, what is WWE doing with Big E? Dropping the ball. Badly, like they do with so many others. Devon Solo Rager Evans. Do you think Cena will win another Rumble and one up or tie up with Austin? Oh, I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibility. I wouldn't bet on it, but I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility at this point. You know, if it's one of those things where you see Cena go out with an injury for several months and you get word that he might be coming back come Royal Rumble time, you already know what the dealie is, yo. Jacob Hudson, in your opinion, 5 greatest wrestling video games of all time. Fuck if I know. I can't even remember ever really liking 5 wrestling games. I'm just telling you. There's never was a... I've never been a super duper gamer to begin with. And the majority of my video gaming that I did as a younger adult was Grand Theft Auto related, was Madden related, NCAA football related, wrestling video games. I really never liked wrestling video games all that much. Duke Morris, thoughts on Joe Rogan's comments on pro wrestling? The Fear Factor guy, right? Okay, I rest my case. Plain and simple. Idiot. Taryn T. Rooks. Why does Summer love Roman Reigns so much? I don't know. He's a big strapping Samoa stud muffin. I don't know. It's just her thing. That's the guy when I say Roman's on Summer, she'll come running up to the TV and sit there with Daddy and watch Romans. She loves watching Roman. Her other person she really likes watching for some reason is LL Cool J. Whenever we watch NCIS Los Angeles, this is one of the few TV shows we watch. She's transfixed. She will actually sit there and legitimately watch the show. Everett Harding. Who do you think would have had a great heel run with the world title when they were in WWE? Carlito, Muhammad Hassan, or Mr. Kennedy? Probably Kennedy, Hassan, and Carlito in that order. Devon Johnson, should the pay-per-view pre-show at the Big Four pay-per-views be given to showcase an NXT championship match? Kind of alluded to earlier, I would not be opposed to that. Again, you're trying to get these guys ready for the big show. What better way to find out if they're ready for the big show or how they're progressing in their path towards the big show than actually giving them a taste of the big show? Patrick Small, will WWE ever truly value its minority talent? No. Well, let me rephrase that because there's an important distinction to be made here. They value some of their Hispanic wrestlers. The bigger question is, will they ever truly value Black or Asian wrestlers? And I just don't buy it. I just don't see it. And again, it's something I think that does affect the credibility of the product. Jonathan Shillow, over-under 2 teams from the ESPN, SEC conference, making it into the college football playoff. Well, God knows, if the networks have their way, they'll find a way to worm 2 ESPN SEC teams, you will, in there. Yeah. I'm glad they went to a playoff, but why only 4 teams? That's dumb. Do 8. How the fuck could you not do 8? Don't you have 5 power conferences, yet you only have 4 playoff teams? Even when they start on the path of doing something right, college football still finds a way to fuck it up. Bruce Brown, if Hulk Hogan was in this era, would he draw? I don't know. The Hogan character of the 80s, post 9/11, yes, would have worked tremendously. I don't know about it in this time. As far as Hollywood Hogan, the NWO heel, I don't know if it would work. I don't. Zaire Brown, how do you think the Authority storyline should end? Just end. I don't care how. Scotty Allen, what's your opinion on the Tea Party movement and Occupy Wall Street movement? Tea Party movement. It's amazing how these people didn't start protesting until after the black guy got sworn in, and that's the truth. These protests didn't start until 2009. Fucking look it up. Where was all this outrage over budget deficits and etc. in the previous 8 years? That's a fair question. As far as the Occupy Wall Street movement, it was kind of one of those things. They had a point, but of course, just like anything else, fucking idiots go off in all these divergent paths in different directions and forget the whole point of the Occupy Wall Street movement to fucking begin with, and it lost its voice and lost any steam to ever make any real necessary changes. It just became a thing to do and bitch about this and that instead of having one singular focus. So it was stupid too. Thanks again to all of you guys that took to Facebook and the OTRS Central page to post your questions. I'll be back again Monday for another OTRS Central Q&A episode. Hopefully some videos up this weekend too.